Steve Mills here. Today I want to talk to you about pay-per-click advertising, not paperclip advertising as someone recently thought I'd said, but pay-per-click. You know the type of thing. I'm sure you've been a victim of it if you've not actually used it in your business. But pay-per-click advertising comes in many different varieties. On social media, for example, it's all about telling the social media channel who to show your advert to. So, for example, on LinkedIn, I can say, right, I want to target managing directors of businesses employing 50 to 100 people who are in the IT industry, who are based in London, and that's my market, and LinkedIn will show it to those people. On the search engines, generally speaking, it's the other way around, and I'm going to focus on specifically on Google. Now, Google got a brand for this. They call it Adwords, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Although a lot of the things that I'm going to say would certainly appeal to, the other search engines, and may be valuable, if you're doing LinkedIn or Facebook ads or any other advertising like that. So, I'm going to today, if I may, if you're part of my inner circle and you're watching this in that program, which I'm sure you are, then you'll notice below there's a report. And I'm going to base my talk on the report. So if it appears as though I'm reading, you see my eyes flicking down the screen or something, that's because I am. I'm not going to read the report. You can do it yourself. I'm just going to comment on the report and give you my sort of take on it. So here we go. So let me just pull that up so I can see it. So firstly, an introduction. As I say, pay-per-click advertising or AdWords, one of the best forms of marketing on the planet without any shadow of a doubt. You say, well, why is that, Steve? Well, I think it's because it works instantly. You can set an advertising campaign up this afternoon, and inside a couple of hours, once Google's approved it, it's off and running. You can then go, do you know what, tomorrow we've had loads of leads in, we need to turn it off because we can't cope with the leads. So you just press a button and turn it off again. You can turn it on again the following day and so on. So it's just like an on-off lead generation tool. But the other great thing about it is that, in the name of it, pay per click. So you only pay when somebody clicks and goes to your website. Okay, so it's not like, sticking an advert in the good old days in a glossy magazine is $1.5 to $2 grand a month for a full page ad. Doesn't matter whether that gets you any leads or not. With pay-per-click advertising, you get basically charged for traffic going to your website. And let's say, you pay £1 per click and you get 100 people to go to your website, so you've paid £100, and out of those 100 you get 5 inquiries. You know that the cost of the inquiry is £20, and that's either a good deal or not, depending on how much your product's worth. But you can start to really understand the numbers behind your marketing. So rather than marketing, with a blindfold on, you can market knowing fully well exactly what's working and what's not. And then you can work on how to improve that. So that's what it is. You've probably seen it. If you go onto Google, type something in, you'll notice that the top 4 or 5 adverts have got a little sign at the side that says ad, and then often at the bottom of the first page you've got another sort of 3-4 ads there. It used to be on the right hand side, and everybody said, I never click on that, but somebody did, because that's probably the main way that Google makes its money. That and advertising on YouTube, which I'll talk about on a different video to this one. So pay-per-click advertising, absolutely brilliant. But the problem being, it's a little bit like most things in life, really, that it's brilliant if you can get it to work, but it's not easy. It's actually really complex. I've got to say, I love things that are easy personally. I often say if Steve can do it, then anybody can do it. But I would give you a little warning here about pay-per-click advertising. It is very easy to, flush a load of cash down the loo using pay-per-click advertising. Forgive the image that's probably going around in your mind right now, but the fact is, it's quite complex. And my advice to you is, if you're going to invest in this at any level, is that you, number one, find somebody who could do it for you, who's experienced, they've been successful, and they know how to do it. And if that's us, that would be great. We'd be very happy to talk to you about doing that for you. Or you take the training in doing it yourself very seriously. Now, that doesn't mean watching a 10-minute video. Doesn't mean watching this video and thinking you can do it, or watching any quick video. Probably the best way of learning is going to Google and doing I think it's a 10-day accreditation program. It costs £2,000. Last time I looked anyway, it did. It's £2,000 to be an accredited Google AdWords professional, I think they call it. So, it's entirely up to you. But, if you're going to do it properly and invest some time and money in it, and or get somebody who's already done that to do it for you. But I think from your point of view, it's important to watch a video like this so that you've at least got a working knowledge of it, and you know what you're buying, and you can understand it enough to know what good looks like. Because believe me, not everybody who says they're an expert in pay-per-click advertising actually are. Some of them have done a little bit of training, watched a few Facebook videos, and watched it, how to do it on YouTube, and all of a sudden, I'm an expert in it. That's not the case, quite obviously. So the first thing, first tip, I suppose I'd give you is actually not to do with Google, but rather it's your landing page. If you're going to pay Google a load of money, i.e. let's say £1, to get somebody to come to your page, but you're sending them to a page that is not working, that's a problem. Why would you send them to a website that's not creating leads? So we need to make sure that your website creates leads. Again, that's another video. If you go to my YouTube channel and type in Steve Mills Marketing, you'll find my channel there, and on it there is a video. It's actually about social media. It's called How to Get Thousands of People to Your Website Using Social Media. Now, on the front of that video, the first 5-10 minutes, I focus on the landing page. So I'd strongly recommend you go and have a look at that particular video. That said, you need to get a lot of targeted traffic to your website this way, which you can do. You can do it instantly. You can do it relatively cheaply. But the thought, if it's in your mind that you're going to invest £5 and see how it goes, you're probably going to get a result called not very much. And so you do need to be, if you're a startup business, we're talking in the high hundreds. You might want to commit, £1,000 or £2,000 to it. If you're turning over 300,000-400,000, that might increase to a few thousand. And if you're in the £1 million bracket, then you should be thinking of 500 to 1,000 per month. But the key is, and this is really important, is understanding that if you invest £1, I'll use a bigger amount. If you invest £1,000 in paid advertising, and that produces 10 grand's worth of business, how often would you like to do that? Now, for me, I do it all day long, every day, every hour, every minute, and know that my return on investment is there, and it's really, really cool. So that's what the analysis of this sort of advertising gives you. So just take that on board. So what I'm saying here is really, if you invest if you turn over £1,000,000 and you invest £1,000 or £500 a day, let's say, which is a significant amount of money, and you know that every time you invest that £500, that's giving you £5,000 back, then you just keep doing it, don't you? And if it doesn't, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong with the advert, and we'll talk about that as we go through. So the first thing you want to think about is location. You know, if you're if you're a hairdresser in Portsmouth, you don't want to be advertising in Australia, clearly. So you want to be advertising very local. So it's important to get that set up. That's easily done. You just schedule it for a particular area. You can do that without any problem. You might also want to think about the time of the scheduling. Let's say, for example, I was selling skiing holidays. When do people buy skiing holidays? Well, for me, I'd have thought it might be in the evenings and at weekends. So rather than advertising in the day where people are at work and they've not really got time to book, they might be having a little bit of a skive off and doing some browsing, but they've not really got time to book. So it might be better, and I say might be better to advertise in the evening and at weekends. So you can do that. You can make that appropriate. Next thing to think about, and this is really important, that is the headline of the advert. That is just absolutely essential. There's an old saying in advertising that the headline is the advert for the advert. I've got a really good example myself. Many years ago, when I was working for a company who sold recycling equipment into local authorities, and the headline was the name of the company. They'd spent a fortune on advertising. It wasn't Google, but they'd spent £12,000 on advertising, got no business. And I changed the headline from the name of the company to the result the equipment produced. And that result was local authorities save 25% on recycling costs, which saved them an average of about £3 million a year. And long story short, the following month they got 5 leads. That turned it into 2 sales, and that worked out at £5 million each. £5 million in total, I beg your pardon. The machine cost £2.5 million for a local authority. So they sold 2 of them that following week. Following month. So really, really important. I can't tell you what your headline should be. Again, I've got a report on my website called Effective Headline Production. So go and download that report. You get it free, and it's part of the Inner Circle as well. So you might want to go and find it on here. So we've got 2 types of adverts really. Actually sort of 3 if you include YouTube. We've got text-based adverts and we've got image-based adverts. So you can advertise on Google using text, or if you wanted to, you could advertise on Google's partner websites. Now Google's got 2.5 million partner websites, so you could set up banner advertising. I'm sure you've seen that, where you've got a banner down the side. It might be a long thin banner like that, or a little box like that down the side of the page, and you can advertise on there if you want to. So you can do that. Alternatively, you could set up a YouTube advertising video. You've seen them where you go and click on something because you're looking, and it says this advert will disappear or if click on this advert in 5 seconds. So you have to watch the first 5 seconds. The good news there about that type of advertising, by the way, is that you only get charged for the advert if people watch at least 30 seconds of it. So you're constantly showing your advert to somebody, even if it's only 5 seconds of it, without cost. And it's only when they actually go, do you know what, this is interesting, let's start to watch it, do you actually get cost, get a cost. So that's really a good one. Next one then to think about is how do you get more clicks? How do you improve the number of clicks? Because what you want actually is as many clicks as you can afford, and obviously you're going to set a budget for that. You don't want like 15,000 clicks at £2.50 each on the first day. And so you have a controlling budget. You say to Google, look, I'm willing to spend £50 a day, £20 a day, £1,000 a day. Just got some thoughts for you in terms of improving the click-through rate. So one would be to offer something free. You could maybe promote a free webinar, a free report. Perhaps you offer a discount. Click here for a 10% discount on XYZ. You could ask people a question. You could use your phone number. That's a good one, because people might see your advert, think, wow, that's exactly what I want, pick up the phone and call you, i.e. no click. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can put your phone number on there. So perhaps that's a good idea. Use words that capture attention. That's really good. I love adverts along the lines of, if you're like this, then do that. If you want this, then do that. If you're struggling to find somebody who does this, then do that. I like that. If you've got a problem, here's the solution. That type of thing. Doesn't work for every single business, but certainly for mine, that works quite well. Let me then just talk to you briefly about mobile. So you need to make sure that your advertising and indeed your website is optimized for mobile. Let's just imagine that you've got a half decent website, but it's like 5 years old, and somebody's going to go to Google, click on your advert, cost you an amount of money, but more than 50% of them are going to do that on their mobile. Okay, most of them are going to do it on their mobile. Now, if your website looks awful on a mobile, then you've got a bit of a problem. Okay, so number one is to get your website. If your website's not optimized for mobile traffic, then you need to get it sorted. If it's not, you can turn mobile advertising off. So you can say, you basically, when somebody's looking for what you do, they can't find it on their mobile. Now, there's pros and cons with that. Obviously, it's around about 55% at the moment of all searches are on mobile. So you're losing over half your traffic anyway, which ain't good. But at least you're not, paying for traffic that, clearly doesn't work. So that's an important thing. Now, how traffic is generated on Google, as you're no doubt aware, is through people searching for things. So you search for marketing advice and my website shows up. You search for website development because you want a new website, and my website shows up. So what I've done is I've said to Google, if anybody types in this, then I want my website to show up. So one of the keys, I believe anyway, in terms of doing this, is to use what I call long tail keywords. Let's just imagine that you work in the car industry, car insurance. Let's use that because that's a really tough one. So, I'm a little company. I run the Steve Mills car insurance company, and I'm able to refer you and recommend you and advise you what sort of insurance you have. And I'd really love to be on the first page on Google under car insurance. We got a bit of a problem. This is a highly competitive market with some massive companies, some of the probably top 50 biggest companies in the world I'm competing against. All the car insurance companies, for example. Now, because, this is big business, they got big budgets. They've certainly got more money than I have. And so what happens, instead of that being £1 per click. It's more like £25 per click. And so I really don't want to be competing in that market. I can't afford it. I've not got the budget to do that. And so what I do instead of that is I use long tail keywords. So I might go on to Google, for example, and tell Google to show my advert when somebody types in car insurance Portsmouth. Can you see how certainly there'll be less people searching on that, but the big companies won't even bother with that because, you know, they're direct line insurance. They're not going to bother with, you know, keywords, long tail keywords, car insurance Portsmouth, or car insurance for table tennis players. You know, I used to be a table tennis player. Do you think that would be fairly cheap? Yeah, of course it would. It'd probably cost like 20p because nobody's competing on that. But it might be that, like, I don't know, you know, 50 people in the world probably type on that per day. I don't know, but I'm using a silly example there, but you get the idea. So think about longer tail keywords. So for me, you know, my LinkedIn training, I'd love to be on the first page on LinkedIn training, might be a bit expensive, so I go with LinkedIn training Hampshire, or LinkedIn training for hotels, LinkedIn training for small businesses, because I know it's cheaper, and yet there are still people competing and clicking on that phrase. Now, here lies a bit of a problem. The standard way Google does this, the default, is what's known as broad match. Now, what that means is that if I took the keywords LinkedIn training Hampshire and did a broad match advert, then what would happen is if you typed in LinkedIn training Hampshire, my advert comes up. But if you typed in training Hampshire, my advert also comes up. If you typed in Hampshire, my advert also comes up. So you can see the problem. Yeah, it's coming up no matter what, and that ain't good. So we really don't want that. So broad match, I'm not saying don't ever use it, but it tends not to be my favorite way of doing it. Let's put it that way. So the second way is to set it up under what's known as phrase match. A phrase match is basically like a phrase. It's like a long tail, but when a phrase match is used, the phrase that can be viewed may be varied. So let me give you an example. If you were your search term was sailing holidays, it might also attract cheap sailing holidays or sailing boats ideal for holidays, or boat sales for sailing holidays. So my two words, sailing holidays, are in there, but there's loads of other stuff in there as well. So that's a phrase match. Now that might be a good thing to do, but it may not. Now the one I tend to like, I've got to say, is when it's exact match. Okay, so in this, if you use the word IT support London, because that's what you do, then it will only work if somebody types in IT support London. And the exact specific works. If somebody types in IT support or IT London or support London, your advert won't come up. So this has been much more focused, much more effective. So that's a really good tip, I think. Now the next one is what's known as negative matches. So if I put marketing advice as a keyword, but before the particular word I did like a little minus sign, yeah, so minus and then a specific word and then marketing advice, amount of money to advertise for giving something away. Perhaps I might offer a free report or something like that, but I might not want to do that. So I'll give you a perfect example. One of my clients sold sailing holidays, but people were searching on cheap sailing holidays. His sailing holidays were $8,000 a week to hire the boat. It ain't cheap, and so certainly we used that when we devised and developed that account for him. So that's a really important one. Another one. Let me just see. Sorry, just reading through things. There's a load of stuff in the report about research tools. I'm not going to go into that on here, but it's all to do with keyword research and where and how you can find that. It's like what search words should you be using, and there's I think it's on page 9. You can get loads of info on that. So that's sort of really what I wanted to talk to you about, I think. Yeah, that's it. I suppose my sort of final advice would be, don't bet the ranch. Let's not start off spending more than you feel comfortable losing. Let's start off in a situation where, you don't know it's going to work. That's the bottom line with most marketing, actually, and certainly with Google Ads. You're probably not going to get it perfect on day one. Very, very important that you continuously and never-endingly check it and monitoring it. What you don't want to do, set it up £50 a day and then go and have a look in a month's time, and you've just blown a shed load of money on something that's not created leads. So every day, get yourself onto Google, get an understanding. It gives you all the stats, how many people have looked at it, how many people have looked at the advert twice, how many people have clicked. And if you set everything up in terms of the ad conversion, which involves adding code into your website, i.e. you need somebody who knows what you're doing, you can even set it up so you can measure the number of sales. So you know that you've driven 1,000 people to your website in a day, and out of those, 122 have bought your product or they've made an inquiry. And Google will tell you that sort of information. So it's pretty sophisticated and pretty cool. So that's it, really. If you want to know more, if you want help from us, get in touch. We'd be very happy to help you. I've got a guy that does all this. I don't do it. I've got a guy that does it all for you. He's a real expert in what he does. And I'm sure it'll get you a great return on investment. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening.